Hi everyone, and welcome to the Supports and Accommodations video series, Supports for Students with Visual Impairments. My name is Jen Paul. I'm the English Learner and Accessibility Assessment Specialist at the Michigan Department of Education. Some of the things I'm going to cover in today's video are to review the Supports and Accommodations framework, talk a little bit about how to select appropriate supports and accommodations, and primarily focus on reviewing the high-use supports and accommodations for this particular population of students. Let's talk about some big ideas for our supports and accommodations framework first. One of the things that we want to drive home for our educators is that everybody needs to be making team-based decisions, even for our students who are English learners. You need to be making those individual student decisions. What's best for the student? What are they using regularly in the classroom? And that's really going to provide the most benefit for the student. There are three types of supports that a student has access to on our state assessments. The first is called universal tools. These are things that are going to be available to all students, and the use is primarily student-driven. So this is something like an embedded highlighter. A student has access to that throughout the assessment typically, and they can use it whenever they want. Designated supports are a little bit more narrow. These are things that are available to students who have a specific need, and their use is primarily educator-driven, meaning a teacher has said, this is the best thing for the student. And we also have an even narrower set of supports for students, that being those things called accommodations. These are things that are only going to be available to students who are students with disabilities and whose 504 plans or IEPs actually have the need for this accommodation outlined within them. Our office actually monitors the supports and accommodations that students are using. We take a look at frequency counts, so how many students are being assigned things like text-to-speech, how many students have been assigned to take the stacked Spanish translation of the M-STEP math assessment. We look at these numbers regularly. And one of the things that we look at is whether or not districts over-accommodate students, meaning students are provided with accommodations with a capital A, those things that are reserved only for students with disabilities who have that need outlined, as I mentioned, in their IEP or 504 plan. If you're over accommodating, you're providing accommodation to students who are not students with disabilities, we're going to see that in our numbers. And it's possible that a district or school could end up on a monitoring list, meaning we would want to come and spend some time with you possibly, or talk with you over the phone related to your processes and procedures on accommodations, assignment, and usage for those students. I want to also point folks to some important resources. We have a supports and accommodations guidance document that is available on any of our assessment web pages. Specifically for M-STEP, we have a guide for teachers of students who have a visual impairment. And we also have the Weda Accessibility and Accommodations Manual that educators may find useful as well. There are, of course, lots of other good things that are available on our websites, but these are some primary documents that educators can start with. So let's talk first about how to enable supports and accommodations for our state assessments. For M-STEP, there's no application process, meaning no one in the assessment office is approving the use of any of the universal tools, designated supports, or accommodations. However, at the local level, at a school district level, somebody is going to need to be in charge of enabling and turning on some of these embedded designated supports and accommodations within the Insight portal. My access is very similar. There's no application process, but there are a few things that must be enabled within the testing engine itself for students. For anything related to the College Board assessments, PSAT and SAT, there is an application process for the vast majority of accommodations. For ACT, there is no application process. And for Weda, there is also no application process. However, again, very similar to MSTEP and My Access, some embedded accommodations must be enabled in the test management system by someone at the local level. For the purposes of this video, when I talk about something that needs to be enabled in one of these online systems, such as a designated support or accommodation, I'm going to be displaying on the screen this plus symbol with a circle around it. Our students have a variety of needs. Our students may be colorblind, they may have partial sight, they may be identified as low vision or even legally blind, or in some cases totally blind. So we have a large range of students with visual needs, and we need to be able to address those in a variety of ways within our state assessments. We're going to start with our MSTEP assessment. Test timing. One of the greatest things about the MSTEP assessments is that they are untimed. So the students can take as long as they need, as long as they're making progress and are not just sitting there staring blankly at something for hours on end, then they certainly have as much time as they need to be able to complete a test within the testing window itself. There are color options for students that may need it. These are things that may not only be helpful for students that have the need to actually have a difference of color potentially, but they could also be helpful for students with attention difficulties or, as I mentioned, other print disabilities. Within the MSTEP online testing engine, there are 3 different options to choose from as a designated support. There's a color choice option, that's what it's called in the system. This provides multiple background colors for on-screen text. There's also a contrasting color option. This provides multiple background colors with contrasting text color options. Then, of course, for students that may need it, there is a color overlay option, which is not an embedded feature of the online test, but students can use whatever color overlay option they normally use, whether that's online or paper pencil. The 2 things on this screen that need to be enabled in the Insight engine itself are color choice and contrasting color. Masking is a designated support that could be helpful for students who need help with focusing visually on something. So let me describe this to you and how it functions in the online testing engine for MSTEP again. This provides an expandable box for students that they can resize and move wherever they would like on the screen. Again, this needs to be enabled in the system before a student would take the test. Of course, for paper pencil test takers, they can use, again, whatever normal tools they use to help them do masking on print material that they may be accessing. There is a magnification option within the online testing engine for MSTEP. There is a magnifier option that is considered a universal tool that's just going to show up for every student. It requires the students, however, to reselect the magnifier icon on each question. So every single time the student goes to a new question, they have to reselect that icon at the top of the screen so that the test content is magnified. They have the option to select from 1.5 times or 2 times magnification with this particular option. And again, that's available to all students. Now, continuous magnification is considered an accommodation and needs to be enabled within the online testing system. This is an option that is going to default to 2 times magnification. It does not require the student to reselect the magnifier tool for each question. So that means that the student will have a continuous magnification option throughout the entirety of the assessment when they take it. A student can use also whatever other specialized magnification tools or visual aids that they regularly use in the classroom. However, there's a word of warning here that particularly for online testers, it's possible that third-party software options that the student might be typically using may not function with the test. And in those cases where a student wants to use this specialized software, perhaps, our recommendation is to try out those tools and software with the online tools training, which are the practice tests essentially for the M-STEP assessment. That ensures that you know that it works or doesn't work necessarily for before you get to the actual test day itself. For M-STEP, there's an enlarged print option. You can order this for students. It provides the assessment in 15-point font on 11 by 15 inch paper. Students can, of course, use this along with whatever specialized magnification devices they use in the classroom. There are also Braille options for students that need it. The M-STEP assessments are produced in UEB and Nemeth within UEB when needed, as well as contracted and uncontracted. Braille kits for the M-STEP assessment will include what's also called the Assessment Administrator Booklet for Braille. What this does is provide the test administrator with a script and a guide to be used if the student needs the test administrator to actually read aloud test content to them. You may be able to use enlarged print with a Braille kit. Some students may benefit from using both. There may be some small differences between the enlarged print booklet and the Braille booklet, but those differences are going to be explained in the AABB, which is the resource that I just spoke about on the previous slide. If you need this option, please send an email to mde-oeaa@michigan.gov. Text-to-speech and text-to-speech passage are also options for students with disabilities that need it. If they're taking the online assessment, then these things are available to them as long as they meet the qualifying criteria for using those options. You can find more information about the text-to-speech options in our text-to-speech videos. Let's talk about My Access. Students can use objects instead of graphics at times. So for functional independence, this might mean that a student should have access to coins, counters, 3D unit blocks, clocks, things of that nature that they can actually touch and are tangible for them. For students that are taking supported independence or participation, they can use objects, and the test administrator can use objects instead of picture cards as appropriate. We do not, meaning the OEAA and MDE does not need to approve the use of those objects prior to their use. Here is a specific note for you related to Braille users for supported independence and participation. We do not at this time currently provide a Braille option for that particular or for those particular levels of the My Access assessment. However, schools have the option to provide tactile graphics or Braille basic text in a format that is most familiar to the student. For SAT and ACT work keys assessments, Please refer to the College Board and ACT documentation for additional information on what is allowable and how to apply for accommodations if they are required for your students. Weda has some options for students that have visual needs. Very similar, in fact, to some of the options that are provided for our M-STEP assessment. They have a color contrast option as a universal tool. This allows students to choose from 8 predefined color combinations. So something such as white with black text, which is the default, or pink with green text. And again, many of these options are exactly the same options that students would have for the M-STEP assessment as well, although it is titled something different for our M-STEP assessment. Students have access also to color overlay option as a universal tool. This just changes the background color on the screen. So white, green, blue, beige, pink, and yellow are the options from which a student can select. There is also a magnification option as a universal tool for the online Weda assessment. This again requires students to reselect that magnifier icon on every single question, and it will magnify the test content on that particular question. There is a large print option for the Weda assessment. This can be ordered for students. It provides students with text in 18-point font on 11 by 17-inch paper. Students can use this along with whatever specialized magnification devices they're typically using in the classroom. Weda also produces a Braille option in UEB and Nemeth within UEB when needed, as well as contracted and uncontracted. Braille is only available for listening, reading, and writing, but not available for speaking. The reason for that is because speaking is a heavily graphic domain for this particular assessment. Braille is available for students in grades 3 through 12. However, in many of the Weda documents, you will see it's available for students in grades 1 through 12. However, if you have students that do have visual needs and are Braille, in the process of learning Braille, and they're in K2, please contact our office at mde-oeaa@michigan.gov, because it may be the case that this student would be eligible for a Weda test exception. Again, I want to make sure that you know about all of the resources that you have access to that are going to be very helpful to plan and coordinate these assessments if you're in charge of them. Please go back and make sure that you are taking a look through the supports and accommodations guidance document. It provides a significantly more amount of detail than what my video does provide to you today. So please take a look at that document. If you're interested in getting some things that might help you coordinate and then input some of this information into our online testing engines, definitely check out the supports and accommodations recording and tracking resources that are available on the assessment pages as well. If you have any questions after the webinar today or after viewing this video, please send them to mde-oeaa@michigan.gov.